okay if I stand? It's okay? All right, thank you so much. My name is Naa. I'm a broadcast journalist. I am also an actor, and I run a theater production company called April Communications. I also teach a little bit. I teach radio production at Central University, and I do a few other things. This afternoon, I'm supposed to talk to you about creativity, career development, and national development. And while I am comfortable talking to you about the creative industry or the creative arts because that's where I work, I would like us to first of all acknowledge the fact that creativity does not mean artistic expression alone. It's the ability to think differently, challenge the status quo, and do things in a creative way. And this is relevant to you, to all of us, no matter which industry you work in, sector you work in, even if you do no work at all. Creativity is the first step to growth, I think. Let me tell you a story. I don't particularly like snakes. Who likes snakes? Any snake fans? Got a little snake under your bed? Anyone? No one? Okay, well, I don't like snakes too. So when I heard a girl talking about her pet snake on Instagram, my first thought was to just scroll by and get rid of this content. But I stayed for a few moments, I don't know why. But as she continued to talk, I got interested in what she was saying. So I'll tell you her story very quickly. This girl, she's white, said that she bought a pet snake. She bought this snake when it was very small. She thought it was so cute. It was at a shelter, an animal shelter, the snake. So she bought it, and it came in a little glass case, and she took it home. She cared for the snake. She gave it its vitamins. Yeah. She gave it the food it needed. It got sufficient sunlight. It rested well. She took very good care of the snake. And the snake grew over the years. After a few years, she realized the snake wasn't feeling too well. So she took the snake to the vet. Yeah. She took the snake, put it in her car, and went to the vet. And as the doctor checked the snake out, he asked her how old the snake was. And she told him how old the snake was. And the doctor said no, the vet said no, your snake is too small for the age you're telling me. And she said, well, that's how old it is. So they went over, do you feed it? Yes. Vitamins? Yes. Does it get sunlight? Yes. Does it sleep well? Yes. So it's still too small. Then, as the vet was trying to figure out what might be wrong with the snake, he asked one last question. Did you put the snake in this case to bring it here? Or that is the case that the snake is always in? And she said, oh, that's the case I bought it in, so it's always been in that case. And the vet said, no, that was a case for a baby snake. This snake is supposed to be about 10 times longer than it is now. And it's not growing because you've kept it in this small box. And the growth of the snake is largely dependent on its environment and the box it's in. So the reason your snake is not growing is because it's remained in this small box for way too long. If you want it to grow, you need to take it out of the box, put it in a case for a big snake, and then you see the snake grow. Now, this story rang a bell in my head about my own life experiences with work and the things I have tried to do and the things I've experimented with and the things I have run away from. When I started off in the industry, I didn't really plan to start off in the industry. I was a student at GIG and I needed a little extra money on the side, so I started ushering at the National Theatre. I was an usher. I'd go to the theater, I'll usher for concerts party, I'll usher for AGMs, I'll usher for the Ghana Music Awards. Sometimes I'll do about 5 different events in one weekend. I was paid 15 cedis per event, so I could make a little extra money for school. At the theater, I met everybody, from the president of the country, I was Kufuor at the time, yeah, from the president to organizers of beauty pageants, Miss Malaika, to the backstage of concert party with all the comedians, to fan world, to basically see everybody. And I was front of house at the foyer, so I met everyone. And every time I met somebody who I knew or I thought I liked, I wanted to be, I don't know, helpful. I wanted to help them. I wanted to hold their bag, or I was just supposed to show you to your seat, and that was it. But I offered to hold your bag or take your gum into my hand, because you weren't allowed to take gum or food into the theater at the time. But now we even chew kebabs in the auditorium, so I guess. So I would take your gum into my hand and take your bag and, bring you tissue or whatever you needed. Like, I was so happy to help all the time. And through doing all that, I met people who I now work with and people who I now employ. And I'm telling you this because as I grew in the space, from ushering, I started working at TV Africa. I then moved to Charterhouse. I then started production. And then I moved to GH1, to Joy FM, to Asasi Radio, and then now to TV3. As I moved through the space, I constantly realized or reminded myself, maybe unconsciously, that I needed to do more. I needed to get out. I needed to try something else. I was constantly told, I must say, that you are doing too much. You need to focus on one thing and grow there. You need to, you can't be jack of all trades and master of none. Just, you want to be a journalist, focus on it. Practice journalism, focus, keep focused. That way you'll be able to be the best in the space. But if you go and play with this and come and do this, and tomorrow you're here and tomorrow you're there, you're going to be all over the place and you'll not do well. I didn't really take that advice, even though I respected it, because I understand that if you want to develop in a space, you must focus and do more. But I also somehow felt that the box of being in one industry and so just focusing on that little space was not enough for me. I wanted to experiment and do other things and see if I could grow like that snake and do a little more and expand, which I did, and I'm so glad I did. By the way, I respect focusing on one thing and doing it. But I must tell you honestly that I respect more trying other things and failing at them and realizing, well, it's not for me. Let me just come back to what's for me. Because if you don't try, how would you know? You just might be the best at the other things too. It is possible to do more than one thing and be good at it. And this, in creativity or in the creative space, I think will help us grow, all of us. Because being the best at a thing doesn't mean that nobody else can do it like you. It means that you offer something more that other people are probably not offering. Coca-Cola and Pepsi taste the same, right? Not really. If I put Coca-Cola in a clean, empty glass and put Pepsi in a clean, empty glass, I think a lot of people cannot tell the difference. Unless you are a Coke fan or a Pepsi fan. I think a lot of people just drink it, especially when there's ice in it. You can't tell if it's diluted or it's, yeah. They look the same, they taste similar. But when you go to a store and you want Coca-Cola, you know you want Coca-Cola, and you probably ask for it. And even sometimes when you want Pepsi, you might say Coke. Maybe not you, but a lot of people will. There's a reason people would probably choose, I have to be careful about the brands, right? So there's a reason people would choose this brand of water over another brand of water. It's all water, isn't it? Forget Coca-Cola and Pepsi, but the water brands. We are offering you the same thing as water in a bottle. They taste the same. As for that one, I think you'd all agree with me. All the bottled water brands taste the same. No? Is there anyone here who works in a bottling company? Because I think you're pushing an agenda. The water brands, I think they taste similar. Okay, let me say that. But oftentimes, you ask for a specific brand, not because it's the best brand or it tastes better than the other one, but probably because they've done something different. Sometimes it's just the color of the bottle. Sometimes it's the texture. You want to be able to squeeze it after. Sometimes it's how they have positioned it and marketed it to you. But they've done something. For those who are not doing anything, you usually will drink it because that's what's available, but you wouldn't ask for that brand. There are brands you never ask for. no matter how popular they are, you just never ask for. I think we all know at the back of our minds what I'm talking about, all right? And it's probably because they haven't done that little extra. So what am I saying? I'm saying that there's always an opportunity, no matter what you're doing, to do a little extra and be creative in entrepreneurship, in academia, in the law, in medicine, or whatever. There's always an opportunity to do something a little extra. Every time I see the building of AB and David, back in a long time ago, sometime in 2012, 2013, when I was doing my LLB, I would always say, oh, I want to work here someday. And then when I saw their building eventually, when it came up, I thought, look at that building. I mean, it's a law firm, right? They're an amazing law firm. The partners are people if you are interested in the law, want to study under, but the building. At the time, there was Oxford and Beaumont and other law firms who, I think were running in the same space, but their building was always a big attraction for me and some of my classmates back in the day. So what am I saying? That little extra is or should be the thing that makes people want to know about your business, to do business with you, to like your brand, to want to copy you. And there's a lot of copying, by the way. I think somebody mentioned it earlier in a question. It wasn't a question. I think it was David, you mentioned it. The moment you start, people will start copying you, and it's a good thing for people to copy you, because if nobody copies you, you have to wonder what's wrong. People have a problem with copycats. They say, I have an idea I want to share with you, but I'm afraid that, I don't want to talk to too many people. So you will never do it, because eventually you're going to do it, and they will copy. So you might as well just get on with it. And if nobody copies you, please go back and check and try to figure out what's wrong with this idea. Because a mark of something good is imitation. It's the biggest compliment. People must copy you, but you must continue to evolve and do better. And because you have the blueprint, you've got to be better. And oftentimes, or too many times, when we start, we don't know what's next and what's next and what's next. And so we stay at one place, and the copycats come and overtake us, and then we cry and say, it was my idea. Well, not anymore. We have learned that an original idea does not necessarily mean that you are the one who dreamt the idea. An original idea means that somebody has added a little something to it to make it different. Once they add a little something to it to make it different, it is their original idea now. Once we can show that, well, this is different from that, it's original, it's no longer yours. So, embrace the copycats, but always be open to change, and be open to trying new things, and be open to being creative, and be open to, failing happily. Failing and knowing that you tried. Well, I tried, I failed, it didn't work. I'm not sad about it. Because even though you fail, you often learn a lot to make the next venture better. When I started out acting, again, it was not a plan. I was in school one day, and a friend said, oh, there's auditions at Sparrow Productions, let's go. Escort me, give me vim. I said, yes. I can be the biggest cheerleader for anybody for anything. Just tell me you're going to do it, and I'll give you all the vim you need. So I went with him. He auditioned, and I was told that Chris Attor was on the panel. Okay. So Chris Attor was on Mentor at the time. He was a judge. No, he was a co-host with Anita Erskine. And he was probably the most handsome man on television at the time. So when I heard that Chris Attor was on the panel, I said I had to see him. And the girl who was going around with the paper for us to write our names said, it's free. You can go in and try. If you don't make it, nobody would know. At that time, there was no social media, so there was no funny video going to come out. So I said, okay. So I went with the sole aim of seeing Chris Attor in the flesh. And I saw him in the flesh. And they gave me a script and said, okay, all right, you read the script, and then you go ahead. And then I said, okay, and I did it. And I went, after the audition, I went to Chris, I said, I just came here to see you. Hi. And he said, hi. And 2 weeks later, they called me and gave me a role in the Perfect Picture film. Yeah. So that's how my acting journey started. I wasn't there for that. I was there just to give someone else vim who didn't get the role. I'm not happy to say that. But I went and I did the audition, and I got the role, and it's opened a totally different career path for me. I mean, many years later, I produced my own stage plays. I hire Chris, and and it started this whole new thing for me. So what am I saying? I'm saying that these opportunities come along all the time. Sometimes it's just by somebody sharing an idea with you, and you have to be bold. If you have the slightest interest, you have to be bold to be able to take the step to do it. It's not so complicated, I think. I think we often look for a big opportunity that's going to change our minds and a big grant and all of that. But sometimes, if we are attentive and we listen, we will see opportunities all around us. This is not an attempt to give you an inspirational speech or motivational message. I'm just being honest from the experiences that I have had, that it's very easy to see and recognize opportunities if you are attentive. I told you earlier that at the National Theatre, I was always in a hurry to do something for someone. At the time, I was just doing it because I was happy to see these people, and I felt that I could be of some service to them. Many years later, I think I'm still sort of like that. I was watching Oprah recently, and she said that not everybody can be popular, but everybody can be great, because greatness does not come from being known, but greatness comes from service. It stuck with me, because I agree. Greatness comes from service. If we want to grow as a people and as a nation and as young people, entrepreneurs and so on, we have to think about how we can serve. What can I do for you? Not what can you do for me or how can my business benefit from you. Your business will benefit, yeah? But first, figure out what you can do for them with your product or with your whatever it is you do. What are you doing for your customer? What is it that you are offering them? Forget about how much you're making from them for a moment, but what is it that you are offering? From all of these little, absolutely negligible, can I hold your bag, or can I take your gum, or can I clean your shoe, things that I was doing at the National Theatre. I mean, that's how I met everybody at Charterhouse, where I later worked. That's where I met Yola Ayoade and George Kwe and Apefa Fojo and all of these people now who I work with. Apefa Fojo is currently the general manager of TV3 where I work. George Kwe is usually my partner in stage productions, and Yola was my boss at Charterhouse. These are people who I just always would want to do things for. But many years later, they're my partners, and they trust me, and it makes our business and our relationship grow. They trust me because at a time when I could do nothing for them, absolutely nothing for them, I was of service to them. So they know that my intentions are pure. I'm not here just for a quick buck and then just get the money and get out. In the same way, if your customers can trust you, at the time when you're starting out, that when you say you are producing something with shea butter, it's actually shea butter, and not shea butter, a little bit of shea butter, and a lot of kakao or whatever it is that you put in to make it look plenty. If you are a doctor or a lawyer or a musician or an artist, you can always find a way to serve the people who you work for. And eventually, it is the thing that is going to make them generate trust for you and want to continue to do business with you and continue to grow with you. Some people with the biggest, I always admire MTN because of their heroes of change and some other things that they do. When I watched Vodafone Healthline for the first time, I said, but Vodafone, what have they got to do with health? Why is this? It doesn't make sense, because I had done a lot of work with marketers at the time, and they would always ask you, okay, it's not in line with our general vision, they always have some cool marketing idea, which whatever it is you want to bring to them has to fit into. I did not see the connection between Vodafone and health. But as they continued to show it, at the time they aired it at GH1 TV where I worked. As they continued to show it, I realized that it wasn't about what Vodafone was getting really.